Hey everybody, we're hanging out with John Arch and Jim Matheos from the Arch Matheos band, everything.
Band.
Thanks for joining us. So I guess the big question, of course, is, how did you guys come about doing this? Obviously, you did the Twist of Fate EP a few years ago, and then all of a sudden now we have this full-length record. So what was the process between having that happen to how this whole thing came about?
It was really kind of a long process. We didn't just sit down and say, let's do a record. It was more or less kind of baby steps, really. I had a couple songs that I wanted to do something with, and I asked John to come up to my house and listen to them and see if anything interested in him. And he took it home, worked on a couple songs for a couple months, I think, actually, before he got back to me. Mm-hmm. And it sounded good, so I said, well, here's another one. It was just kind of one song at a time, and I think we'd had probably 40 minute songs done, right?
Yeah.
Before we decided, hey, maybe we should do a whole record. Mm-hmm. We did it after that.
Well, that's probably 2 songs, basically.
It is.
Long songs. So for you, John, obviously, you had this big long break between Fate's Warning and you did the Twist of Fate EP thing, and then coming back and doing a full record. I know when Jim was giving you the songs, obviously it sparked kind of some interest to you, but what made you want to come back and do this?
That's a good question. I don't know. I've always enjoyed the creative aspect of just creating the music, and after hearing what Jim came up with, what he composed, it was probably up my alley. It was just inspiring. I liked what I heard, and like Jim said, one step at a time, then one song at a time, and before you know it, we're halfway done with an album. And it's at this point, of course, Twist of Fate being an EP, so many of the fans said, well, why not a full-length album? It's like they just wish it was longer, what was good. So this is a perfect opportunity to do a full-length album, and I'm glad we did. I'm glad we had the time, and we took the time to do a full-length album.
Yeah, and coming back for you, it had to take quite a bit of time to get back into the swing of things, of recording and just getting your vocals up, because it's not like you were singing every weekend for a long period of time, right? How long was that process from kind of deciding I'm going to do this to really getting your voice back in shape and then getting back into the studio?
Everything was incorporated in the process. Once we made the decision to go forward with it, Jim said, let's just go with it and see what happens. And once it was obvious that we still had the same chemistry and the music was sounding good, then we just took the ball and ran with it. But during the process, when I first started this, I remember a Twist of Fate, getting my voice back into shape again. It took some time. This time, being a little bit older and being out of it again, it just was even harder. I started singing, there was no vibrato, my pitch was all over the place, it was scary. So it wasn't until halfway into the album where I started to find my voice again. And it still was at a level that wasn't quite where it was, but it was good. It was good enough.
It sounded like, the first part of it took a little longer. Is that safe to say, the first part took a little longer than once you guys started the process? Did it kind of...
Yeah, probably. But I think John overplays the difficulties with his voice, actually. He's just being really self-critical. To me, when he did the first song, Neurotically Wired, I thought it sounded amazing from the get-go,
Actually, I thought the demos sounded okay. And then there's something that goes on with your voice. Once you start singing again, there's a window where it sounds good for a while, but then I don't know what goes on, but everything starts to fall apart before it's like a building process. So we hit halfway in the album, and I got sick. So that was scary and discouraging because it was going haywire, and I'm like, oh crap, I kind of expected it, but I didn't expect to catch a bad cold. So the demo sounded good, and then we were actually into the retakes, and it was almost like starting over again. But eventually things started coming back, the vibrato started coming back. It's just a strange process that, playing an instrument, it's really a concrete thing, but with the voice, to me, it's so abstract. I know it's
not like riding a bike. You just get back on the bike and you go.
I ride a bike much better than I sing, trust me.
To answer your question, though, the whole process was long. It was no easier at the beginning or the end.
So from the very beginning process, when you decided, okay, we're gonna do this project to the end of the recording and stuff. How long was that?
Well, that wasn't that long because we decided we were going to do a project when we were probably, like I said, maybe 3/4 done with the record. But from the point where I started writing music that I didn't know what I was going to do with, or maybe it was going to be a Fates record, I wasn't sure. That's probably about 2 years ago when we started doing that. So.
Oh, wow. So it took a while. So when you guys are recording, it's and you're doing the vocals. You're just in Jim's studio, just the two of you, right?
Yeah.
So how is that dynamic? Is Jim like a taskmaster, or does he? I'm obviously he's helping you get the stuff there. But how does that dynamic work?
He's an asset, actually.
An ass? What?
Asset. He's an asset because I guess how can I put this? I guess you set the bar so high, you set it while you're young and you push yourself. But here I am a little bit older, and you want to try to better yourself all the time, or get your voice into a certain range. But what was good about this is Jim kind of reined me in a little bit and said, okay, let's don't worry about singing in the stratosphere. So I actually used more of a voice, I think, a little bit more mid-range, a little bit, and that actually was hard because my natural range is not low, it's high.
That's true.
So I'm like, Christ, it's like, okay, I'm trying to sing low now, that's hard. Sing in the high, so stay in the middle.
I'd get him to do some of these low things, and it was really hard. Not even that low, really, just kind of like standard mid-range for a regular singer. And it'd be really hard for him, and he would naturally want to go up really high every time.
So it's easier for you to sing at the higher registers than the
within reason. I mean, there's a certain register, but then when I get excited and we're in the studio and we're all pumped, and I hear a certain thing in my head, I want it to be a certain way, then I start maybe getting a little carried away. But he reined me in, and it worked out for the best, because I think there's the best of both worlds there. There's higher registers. It's you still got like loads of lyrics. You got the melody's constantly changing, but I just think it's more dynamic, and it lends itself to the songs rather than we all want to do our best, but there's no showboating. It was more or less it was about the songs, about the music.
Well, it's amazing to me because it almost seems like you guys just picked up right where you left off. I mean, the music, the how you sound vocally and everything. Somebody would tell me that there was a 20-year gap, or however long the gap was in between it. So it sounds like it was the record that came out 2 or 3 years later, really, when you kind of listen back to it.
It certainly felt like that as far as the way we worked together and the way it came together. I don't know musically if it sounds like the natural predecessor to Awaken the Guardian, but the way we worked together, it felt really natural, like we never stopped.
Yeah, during the demos, of course, you're kind of just putting your feelers out there, and you don't know how it's going to sound. We didn't go. Jim had things written, but you don't know what. We never take for granted that once you get in front of the microphone, everything is just going to fall into place. It's going to be great. It's kind of a nerve-wracking thing where you don't know until a song is done. And then we had good results on the first song, and so it was a step-by-step process. But the demo sounded pretty good, and I think that was the indicator that okay, let's go with it.
And this is definitely a band project as well. It's not.
It's a band. It's not
a project.
Absolutely.
It's a band.
Absolutely.
And obviously, it's like I said before, the guys from Fates Warning, already Bobby Jarzambek.
Jarzambek. Z becomes before the B.
Joey Vera and Frank Aresti, who obviously all those guys played a big role on the record and part of the project. So when you were kind of writing the stuff and thinking about this project, was it just natural to have those guys do this and be part of it?
It was. I see no reason to go elsewhere and look for other players. We love all these guys. They're great players, and we get along with them really well personally. It just never even came into our minds to look elsewhere. It's just a natural fit.
And John was into that as well, right?
Yeah, everyone I've ever worked with, talented people. Bobby's a monster. His drumming, I think it's not showboating. He's very talented, but what he did, he writes everything out, beforehand. So he spent an awful lot of time. And so by the time he got into the studio, he's so fast. It was hard to understand some of the things that he was doing. But once you digested that, it's like just another nice layer. It was complementary on top of everything else.
Well, Joey, I think, said to me
that
it was some of this was the hardest stuff he ever had to learn how to play before, which is pretty amazing.
He's got to earn his paycheck.
That's right. So this is really a band. So it's unusual that there's not a band name to it, and it's Arch Matheos. So take us through that process of trying to find a band name and making it, and then decide, okay, it's just going to be Arch Matheos.
It was really a process of elimination when we came to Arch Matheos, because we couldn't, either agree on a name or find one that wasn't taken. We went back and forth for probably 2 months bouncing ideas off of each other.
Yeah.
When we'd find a name we both liked, we'd do a little research on the internet and find out there was 20 other bands on MySpace or whatever that had the same name, and we didn't really want to go through any legal hassle, so we looked for another name and eventually just decided, well, that sums it up really well. It really is just John and I that did the music, and we wanted to let people know that we're back.
And I think a band name really has to, you know when you come up with something, when it really resonates with you and say, okay, this does represent the music, and you feel good about it. And we never found it. It's just the way.
Plus, I think it would be kind of like starting over, really, with a name no one's heard before. At least there's some connection to our past with Arch Matheos.
And the other three guys are okay with them not being involved in that.
It could be Arch, Matheos, Jarzambek, Vera, and Aresti, but
I think it had to be jazz or something. Jarzambek's way too long. Well, it's an awesome record. Thanks for hanging out with us a little bit.
Thank you.
There are going to be
Thank
some
you.
more segments coming up here on Metal Blade TV. Check out the Arch Matheos record. The name of is
Sympathetic Resonance.
Sympathetic Resonance. I said it there. I got it. So thanks again, guys, and
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
keep watching Metal Blade TV for more stuff.